Oscar dissipates over the Bahamas, a tropical wave is impacting the Lesser Antilles, and why the Central and Western Caribbean will need monitoring for potential tropical development. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather, and it's great to see you on a Tuesday. Hope you're doing well. A lot to get into in this video. Coming up, we'll talk about Oscar going kaput over the central and southeast Bahamas, but still some impacts for those areas on this Tuesday. Have a tropical wave with some pretty gnarly weather in the Lesser Antilles, and then we'll deep dive into some potential tropical development here in the Caribbean as we get closer to the end of the month. As always, I'd love to hear from our Meteo Mundo community. Let me know where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. Again, hope you've had a nice Tuesday so far. Let's get into it. We'll start off with the fact that you can see that we no longer have a track from Tropical Storm Oscar. It's because Oscar has completely dissipated over the central and southeast Bahamas as we've rolled through this Tuesday. Again, there was a ton of drier air on the western side of Oscar, and it really was never able to overcome that. As a matter of fact, the drier air has snuck all the way down into the southeast Bahamas. You can see that on this water vapor imagery. So it just ingested that in what was already a very exposed center of circulation, and it just went poof. Now, we still have had some heavier rain, and we've still had some gusty winds, but you can see there's no huge sustained winds, even in the central and southeast Bahamas down to the Turks and the Caicos. Go back over to our infrared satellite imagery, still getting a couple of showers and storms, again, southeast side of the storm. So portions of the Turks and the Caicos getting a little bit of rain and even some thunderstorm activity. It's actually dried out for Inagua and Mayaguana in the Acklins. So breezy conditions, elevated sea conditions. We talked about some seas in the Atlantic exposed waters running around 10 feet at spots. Those should begin to relax for tomorrow. For anyone who will be doing some cruising in the Bahamas, the weather will improve, the seas will relax, although it could be a little bit rough the next couple of days. Now, we'll talk about how this could impact Bermuda. It's not going to as a tropical low, but a non-tropical low might actually end up absorbing Oscar, but we could still have some really heavy rain and some gusty winds. As a matter of fact, in Bermuda for tomorrow, there's a small craft warning and there's a gale warning in effect. So we'll get into that coming up in just a minute. Otherwise, it's been quiet through the rest of the Bahamas for today. It's been quiet so far for my friends in Jamaica. Again, relatively dry conditions here. Maybe see a couple of showers and storms developing later in the day. You catch one of these showers, you let me know. You can see a few developing in the offshore waters here. But once again, the western sides of the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico really have this huge tongue of drier air. That has allowed Belize to dry out today. And that's good news because, again, they're still dealing with the delayed effects of some of the flooding in some of the rivers like the Belize River, and they don't need any additional rainfall. But luckily, again, we're seeing drier conditions moving into the Yucatan and most of Central America so far. Still could see a few showers pop up later in the day. You can see a little bit of moisture there near the Roatan, Guyana areas, but passing showers more than really any sustained, prolonged, heavy activity. We're going to get some rain coming back into the Dominican Republic and Haiti from kind of the south side of Oscar. Again, all of the moisture was on the southeast side, so a few showers and storms getting going at the hour for Lakai. Back towards Bajarona, on over towards Santo Domingo, Punta Cana, Samana, La Romana, all with opportunities for passing showers, even a brief rumble of thunder there. If you live in this area, let me know in the comment section below how it's going. But a little bit more active weather developing here. And we'll see a few showers and a few isolated storms try and get going over Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. This is not going to be a high-end chance for the remainder of this Tuesday. We're going to have better rain chances coming your way starting for tomorrow. Winds are fairly fresh outside right now. These are your wind gusts in miles an hour. So towards Fajardo, they've actually had a south wind today with some gusts right around 25 miles an hour. Now we get into the Lesser Antilles and we start to see more impacts from our tropical wave. First thing I'll do is just kind of zoom out, show you the broad infrared satellite imagery of that tropical wave. Let's switch over to our visible satellite imagery. You can clearly see this is an elongated area of showers and storms, very windy conditions. It's not a depression, it's not a tropical storm, but it is a larger area of very heavy rain and just unsettled weather. And that will continue to be the forecast here over at least the next day or two. So let's get into the island by island outlook here. We've had a few passing showers even as far north as Anguilla and St. Martin. You can see there right over the St. Bart's area. They've had up to a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust from time to time. Passing showers, St. Eustatius, Saba, Statia, St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbuda, Antigua. Nice little 25-mile-an-hour wind there. You can see when you get those enhanced enhanced images coming in here, the higher cloud tops with the color, those are more indicative of heavier rain and even an opportunity for a few lightning strikes out of that. And we've seen that a little bit farther south today. Montserrat, Guadalupe, a friend of the channel, comment section said that they had really heavy rain in Dominica earlier today. You can see they've had some winds of 20 to 25. Same thing for the Martinique area. Also had a commenter also let me know that they saw a water spout near the coastline of St. Lucia. So maybe you've seen some of that active weather in the Lesser Antilles for today, let me know. But it's just unsettled, guys. Pockets of heavier downpours, some areas 1 to 3 inches of rain. That's 25 to 75 millimeters just out of today. Additional widespread rain is likely for our Wednesday as well. Earlier today, we had a flood watch for Barbados. That's no longer the case, but still some heavier rain will try and sneak through St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago as well. No alerts here for TNT, but again, the opportunity for some heavier downpours with just a lot of tropical moisture, just a good abundance there. Showers and storms are also trying to go right up the northern coastline of Venezuela, Clip Nueva Esparta at the hour, so we could see a few rumbles of thunder there. ABC Island still optimistic for some rain here. We've had a little bit of passing showers, Bonaire for today, and the opportunity that somebody gets over the Aruba and Curacao areas. But that's what it looks like at this point in time, with drier air in the western side, and again, Oscar dissipated, but still some impacts that will be felt up towards Bermuda starting late tonight and especially throughout our Wednesday. We're going to get into the forecast right now, friends, and as we do so, again, I appreciate you guys taking a quick second and liking this video. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, you want to join our community, you want these latest forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas and your tropical updates across the entire Atlantic Basin. You found your home. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this with anyone you think is going to get something out of it. And of course, finding ways to support me here at the channel as well via our memberships, the super thanks, and ways in the description in this video as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the short-term forecast over the next few days. I'm going to take you island by island with the rainfall chance, and then we're going to deep dive into the more extended forecast and some of the tropical things that I'm going to be looking at here as we push towards the end of the month. But first things first, let's bring up our GFS model here and bring it out a couple of days and loop this up and talk about the areas that I expect to have the most significant impacts. So we'll start with Bermuda, just because it's very clear to see again what Oscar and what's left over Oscar is going to do. Again, it's done. Anything that develops here is going to be a non-tropical low, but there will still be some very gusty winds moving through. As a matter of fact, the winds here could be upwards of 30 to 40 miles an hour throughout our Wednesday. So if you live in Bermuda, get ready for the weather to start to go downhill very late tonight. Sea conditions going to be exceptionally rough. Small craft warnings. Small craft on Wednesday should just be staying in port, to be quite honest. The rain will be heavy at times throughout the day on Wednesday, could lead to some localized flooding in a couple of areas, and then it should quickly pull out of the area. By, relatively quickly on Thursday here, things get out of the way, and then Friday will be a lot quieter. So really kind of a one-day impact here with what is the remnants of Oscar for Bermuda. If I switch over to the winds here out of the GFS model, and then just single frameless, let's go tomorrow. What do you say about 11 a.m. and see what it looks like? You can see here that, again, and these are sustained winds at the lower levels of the atmosphere. You can see near Bermuda, I mean, you've got near tropical storm force winds. So you're looking at, for our friends in Bermuda, 35, maybe even 40-mile-an-hour winds sustained with some locally higher gusts. I mean, that could take down trees, cause some power outages. This is kind of like a minimal tropical storm impacting Bermuda tomorrow without it being a truly tropical storm. But that non-tropical low, which is going to absorb Oscar, is going to have a lot of wind with it. So our friends in Bermuda, get ready for some pretty active weather for tomorrow. All right, back out here to the big view. We'll loop it back up again. Now we'll talk about what's going to be happening over the Lesser Antilles. Again, you're going to see in the GFS model, there's nothing that's extremely prominent here, right? We're going to have pockets of heavier rain. We're going to have some gusty winds, and I'll show you those wind gusts coming up as well. But the moisture-laden air will just be throughout the Lesser Antilles at least until tomorrow night. And that's all the way from Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago there in the Windward Islands, all the way up to the Leeward Islands as well, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, Barbuda, all with opportunities for passing heavier rain, very kicked up sea conditions as well. There's also been a little bit of haze. There's been a little bit of dust in the air as well. You probably, if you live in that area, have seen just a little bit of a hint of that as well. And then eventually this tropical wave will begin to slide its way farther west. And so we'll start to see rain chances go up a bit for Anegada and Tortola, Roetown, Joost Van Dyke there in the British Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, and the USVI, and of course our friends in Puerto Rico, including Vieques and Culebra. And I think as far west as the extent of the tropical wave really impacts will be the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So rain chances will start to come up for Puerto Plata, Santo Domingo, Port-au-Prince, and Lacaille over the next couple of days as well, hopefully helping to temper some of that heat. Rain chances will still stay relatively low here in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. We're talking about a 30% chance each day, maybe even a 20% chance at a couple of spots. Again, at least in the short term, the drier air is here. Now, down the road, we're obviously going to be talking much more about this Central American gyre and the opportunity for tropical development on the east side, just like we saw with Helene and Nadine. Again, the Central American gyre is very common this time of the year across Central America. It's a broad spin going along with the monsoonal trough, the monsoonal season in portions of Central America, but it also can aid in tropical development in the Central and the Western Caribbean. Nothing in the short term, but we start to see more activity out of that CAG, Central American gyre, and that will spell more rain back into Nicaragua and Honduras. It eventually Guatemala, Belize, and spinning back even as far north as Quintana Roo, but that really won't be coming till Friday. Relatively dry conditions over the next couple of days. And then for our friends in the Bahamas, behind Oscar, there's not much. There's a few isolated showers here. That's going to be about it over the next couple of days. About a 20 to a 30% chance. Again, if you are doing some cruising in the islands, should be okay. The seas will still be elevated at least through tomorrow. Should begin to relax a bit as we head into our Thursday. Let's look at the winds. We'll start off with kind of the wide wind gusts here and loop that up. And obviously, again, you can see that it's a very open system right now, but it does try and curl back up. This would be a mid-latitude non-tropical cyclone almost trying to redevelop near Bermuda or just to the north and to the west of it, which is why we're expecting 40, 45 mile an hour winds out of that. As a matter of fact, I showed you the sustained winds, and this is still the GFS model, so we're still comparing apples to apples here. If I go back just real quick for our friends in Bermuda, and we look at kind of the height of that, that's tomorrow morning. You can see, again, wind gusts there in the GFS are near 50 miles an hour. So I think that's very plausible with some sustained winds of around 40, slightly higher, and then wind gusts of around 50, and can't even rule out a slightly higher wind gust. That's why the gale warning is in effect. And again, check in with the local Department of Meteorology there, but the newest information I had was the gale warning and the small craft warning. Fresh winds are going to be with us here for the Lesser Antilles. Again, for any boaters, mariners here, keep an eye out for that. You get to those greens, that's some 20 mile an hour winds, and that's exactly what I expect us to see here over the next couple of days with this tropical wave. It's just unsettled weather overall for the Eastern Caribbean that does sneak off towards the west. Places like the ABC Islands will also really see their winds freshen up. I mean, it's going to start to get windy towards the end of the week for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, but the weekend ahead, I mean, we might be talking about some 30 plus mile an hour sustained winds there. It's going to get very, very windy in the southern side of the Caribbean here the next couple of days, but especially into next weekend, and even some of that fresher wind will push its way off towards the west. So it's got a lot of wind energy overall, but nothing that's going to allow anything tropically to develop here in the short term. So let's go island by island for you guys. We'll start off with the Bahamas. Northwest Bahamas were, again, relatively quiet. Just a couple of showers for places like Freeport, Lucaya, and Nassau through Friday. Central and Southeast Bahamas after the rain of Oscar. It'll actually be okay to dry out a bit. 40% chance tomorrow, 30 on Thursday and Friday. Not a lot of rain for the Turks and the Caicos as well, but they probably don't mind a little bit drier air as well. Cuba's rain chances, 50% the next couple of days, 60 on Friday. Cayman Islands, again, just an isolated shower chance through Friday. Belize City, fairly dry Wednesday, Thursday. And again, they don't need any more rain post Nadine. We're back up to a 40 on Friday. Cancun and Cozumel, pretty good weather for the end of the work week. Jamaica's rain chances stay at just around 30% chance. Again, my friends, Kingston, Portmore, Spanish Towns, Sav Lamar, Negril, Montego Bay. Enjoy the nice weather. Some of you have said it's been very hot Hopefully some of the heat will be tempered by a little bit of the breeze that we're going to get. Now we start getting into the higher rain chances. 60 tomorrow, Dominican Republic, 70 Thursday, 50 on Friday. Puerto Rico's rain chances all the way up to 70 tomorrow with some pockets of heavier rain. 60 Thursday, back down to a 40 on Friday. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, good rain chances through at least early on Friday. Bermuda, again, 80% chance for tomorrow. 40 Thursday, we dry out on Friday behind whatever is kind of the hybrid system of what was left over from Oscar. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, 40 to 50% chance tomorrow. 60 Thursday, Friday. We stay with good rain chances over the next 3 days. That doesn't mean your area is going to get rain every day, but heavier downpours are possible. Again, watch out for some of those low, dark bases. Can't rule out a few funnel clouds here and there, a couple of water spouts as well. Again, just really unsettled weather in the Eastern Caribbean through Friday. 50% chance tomorrow, Antigua, Barbuda, 70 Thursday, 50 on Friday. Highest rain chances, Montserrat, Guadalupe is on Thursday, but still decent chances Wednesday, Friday. Dominica, 70% chance tomorrow, tailing off a bit, but just good rain chances for Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Slightly lower farther south, but still not bad. Barbados, 40% chance tomorrow, 50 Thursday, 40 on Friday. About the same for Grenada. Trinidad and Tobago, I think a better chance on Thursday. A little surge of moisture comes in here, so we're up to a 60 there. Suriname and Guyana stay with good rain chances as well. Nueva Esparta, again, could catch some heavier downpours. The chance isn't outrageous, but, you know, we're going to get an opportunity. How about the ABC Islands? 40% chance tomorrow, then 30 for your Thursday and Friday. So, again, very, very fresh winds pushing through the Western Atlantic. Still going to have some high sea conditions on the exposed waters for the Bahamas. You can see some of those higher waves also back into, again, the Eastern Caribbean. Watch out for some swells across the Lesser Antilles, and then down the road, we'll be looking here in the Central and the Western Caribbean. That's kind of right at the end of the model there. This is based off the GFS, but if I let this run one more time, you can see down the road what we're looking at here and why we'll be monitoring the central and the western sides of the Atlantic for potential tropical development. As far as rainfall totals go on the European model, again, we'll have decent rain the next few days, and then as that Central American gyre kicks back in late weekend, early next week, you're going to really see those rain totals come back up again in those same areas that we've seen when the Central American gyre really gets active, and that's the southwest side of the Caribbean, but just a lot of Central America, even up to the southern sides of the Yucatan. So, you know, places like Belize need that drier weather. They'll get that for the next few days, but I think really high rain chances start to come back in towards the end of the weekend. We'll start to see some decent rain again, moving back through, again, the Windward Islands. It's really spotty in the Lesser Antilles, but still pockets of some heavier rain even through the Greater Antilles right now. And the Bahamas post-Oscar will also be relatively dry, at least in the shorter term. That was the European model. This is the GFS model over the next 5 days, so not 7, but 5. And again, there's no huge area to point out. Obviously, Bermuda could get hit pretty hard by what was left over of Oscar here. We are painting on, 3-4 inches of rain, but, you know, if this swath is a little bit farther west, they get into that 4 and 5 rather than staying in that 2.5 to 3. So that's one area. And again, a lot of that was actually going to fall for tomorrow. So that's why we could have a little bit in the way of some spotty flooding there if that all falls in about a 24 to 36 hour period. You can see Trinidad here with a couple of inches of rain possible over the next few days. Even the ABC Islands, again, an area that just really has been underserved with the rainfall here throughout the season. We're going to try and, get you guys a couple of inches if possible there. And again, towards the end of this 5-day forecast is when we start to see the rain chances and the higher totals come back to the Caribbean coastline of what's happening in the Yucatan. Okay. So now we're going to get into the tropical discussion of this. And I'm going to load up the GFS model, and we are going to be talking about relatively far in time, not too far, just basically towards the beginning of November. So let me bring this up, and I want to make sure I get the exact right time frame. So if you're a long-time subscriber to the channel, or you've watched some of the videos, you know how we discuss the potential longer range tropical development here on the channel. We take a very measured approach. I'm not just going to show you one model and go, look, there's a Cat 3 there on this model. We have to pay attention for that. There's a few steps that I take behind the scenes here, if you will, and we discussed. The first thing is looking at if a model is producing tropical development, right? Then I want to see, does that same model, let's just say the GFS as an example, show that same potential development in that same area over multiple model runs? Not just over one day, but over a couple of days. And then, you know, that's kind of a check mark, right? For, all right, we need to keep a little bit closer eye on that. Then, you know, does the European model, the ECMWF, also agree with the GFS and vice versa, that there's potential development in this area for a given time frame? And are they consistent run to run with showing that? And for the last 4 days, both the GFS and the European models have been consistent at showing potential tropical development in the central, in the Western Caribbean, right towards the end of October and the beginning of November. And climatologically, as we get into early November, this is an area with a higher chance of development for what I've already mentioned. We have inherent spin in the Western Caribbean thanks to the Central American gyre. We still have very high sea surface temperatures, and at times, especially with La Nina, very little wind shear. Now look, I'm only going to take you guys out to November 1st, okay, which is not that long. Again, you know, the GFS model goes out, you know, nearly 3 weeks on the 0Z and 12Z runs. You know, we could go far, far out in time if we really wanted to, okay? And I'm not even going to take you out to the 2nd to the 3rd, because just beyond where I've stopped this thing really tries to wrap up. But remember, this is just one model run, and things can and will change. It's more about the consistency of what the GFS and the European model has been painting on, okay? So as we get towards the tail end of October, early November, it's central and the western sides of the Caribbean that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on for potential tropical development. There's no area to talk about. There's no high concerns as of yet, okay? But this is an area where over the last 4 days, we've had a high signal from the models that, yeah, we got to watch this, and you know I'm going to do that. So that is the GFS deterministic model, okay? This is the ensemble members. Remember, there's 51 different members of the GFS model. Each of them takes a slightly different initial condition, because even some of the initial conditions are estimated, and they take that and they go out in time. It's kind of like anything. If it's garbage in at the beginning of a model, it's garbage out. So this is almost kind of hedging bets, if you will, and saying, hey, look, based on what the model is seeing, we're going to start with slightly different initial conditions and what could be plausible outcomes. Well, again, as we get towards November 1st, you can see there are several ensemble members which signal development again in the central and the Western Caribbean. Some of them are far to the north and to the east. Some of them are far south and west. And this far out in time, a spread like that of the models is highly likely. We wouldn't expect them to be too clustered, but the signal is there for that potential development. The European model. Some of you guys trust the European more than the GFS, vice versa. They've both been doing very well this hurricane season, depending on the storm. This is the European model. First things first, no development is likely as we head through the next 7 days. But again, as we get to, you know, the latter half of the month, as far as the last few days into early November, you see about the same spread, right? This is again November 1st. Friday, so we're looking at 10 days from now, which when you're talking about tropics is not too far away, especially when you're dealing with potential development very close to home here, right? Several signals here, a few of them out towards the Greater Antilles, a couple here, which would more than likely actually be a system coming out of the Western Atlantic. But if we look at that cluster again in the Caribbean, that same signal has been there, same thing like the GFS has the past 4 days. So if you live in these areas, there's nothing to do except keep tuning in. I'm going to keep you guys updated. And from there, we'll go. Now, look, I said I wasn't going to show you guys anything past November 1st, okay? Because we don't hype things up, but we talk about things in a very measured approach here. But if those signals stay over the next couple of days, it might be time to talk about where this could be headed and how strong it might be. But we're not there yet. So a very general outlook looks like this for the tropics. We have a non-developing system, a broad tropical wave impacting the Lesser Antilles right now. It will impact the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti over the next couple of days. But it's not going to become a depression or a storm. This week, no development is expected at least through Sunday, okay? And more than likely past that as well. Don't want to go more than about 5 days. Things can always get a little bit squirrely. But next week, and I'll take myself off camera so you can read it fully, we got to have a watchful eye on the central and the western Caribbean for tropical development. It's as simple as that. Just a nice watchful eye. And you know I'm going to keep you guys updated here, and we'll do that every day. And I appreciate you guys following us across all of our social media. Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. If you have a picture or a video, right? We saw a lot from Belize. We saw some from the Bahamas. MyMediaMundo@gmail.com. Especially, again, if you have some active weather in the Lesser Antilles, you catch one of those water spouts, send me that picture or video. MyMediaMundo@gmail.com. Friends, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. While you're down there, I do appreciate you liking this video and subscribing. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'm back tomorrow with all the latest across your area. We'll talk about the tropics right here at Meteo Mundo.